Hi, I'm Adam Meyer of Mill City Lutherie in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And in this video, I'm going to show my process of pinning a bridge. It's something I do fairly often on archtop style guitars like this Gretsch. Some of them already come with this, having been done to it. Nowadays it's become kind of a popular thing, so manufacturers are starting to do it. This one didn't have it done. It's not the kind of thing that I do on like really old instruments because it is an alteration. I'm going to be drilling some holes here. But I'll show you the process. I am doing a setup on this guitar at the same time. I personally like to set the guitar up with new strings and everything before lining everything up, just to make sure, because I'm being paid for it. But if this is the kind of thing where you're interested in doing it yourself, if your guitar is correctly set up, you can probably skip going through all of this. But I personally like to get a fresh set of strings on just to make sure everything's intonates correctly. We don't have worn strings that are throwing the tuning off and stuff. So here we go. As you can see, this new guitar, so it still has the foam underneath the bridge foot. That'll be getting removed. The idea is, this can slide around. If you take the strings off, it'll just fall out of place. So the whole point is for this to stay in place and always have the correct intonation and everything. We do have the individual saddles. Sometimes that can be adjusted if it's not quite in the same spot. But if you had like the one-piece metal Bigsby bridge, or even like an actual archtop, which wood bridge, you want to keep it in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow through and just do a setup normally. And then the next clip here will be how I go about marking this out. The guitar is now set up. The reason why I do that is it's going with 10 gauge strings with a plain G string. Now there are other players that will play higher gauge set strings that have a wound G, and this saddle will end up going forward quite a bit. So I want to make sure that I have this located in a position where you can put whichever set of strings, whether it's with a plain G or a wound G. And I also went through, slotted, intonated everything, got the everything where it should be. And something that a lot of people don't quite notice all the time, so I want to make sure your strings, the outer strings, that they line up with the sides of the neck. Oftentimes your Bigsby or your tailpiece will be a little off center, and that can also pull the bridge to one side or not. If it was over here, it'd be wanting to pull the bridge that way. So we want to make sure that when we're doing this, double check here that we've got that all centered. That's pretty good. I think I need to bump it to the base just a little bit yet. So my next step is I'm going to tape this off. Put tape on the front and back and on the sides, real precise. Get the strings back off, and I'm going to pull the pickup out, and I'll show you why in just a minute. As you can see, I marked this off. Got it real tight up to the edges of where it goes. I'll be putting 2 pins in, but we can set that to the side for a moment now. And the reason why I pulled the pickup is because I want to double check. You can see inside here they have a post to keep the top from coming down. But the important part is if you look in the mirror, right along here where my finger is, there's a brace on the top going right along here. And I want to try and put the pin there. Reason being is I'm just going to set it into the top, but every now and then you don't want to drill all the way through and possibly have it press through or anything. You want to try and hit that brace. You only drill in that, like that deep. So we're not going to be going through, but still try and make sure to hit that so that don't weaken anything. So now the next step is I'm going to measure this out, and just like with that brace, pull the bridge off here. You can tell where somewhere like in here, not where the post is. I don't want to have the pin come up and hit the bottom of the post, but somewhere just either to a little bit inside or a little bit outside where the foot of the bridge is still thick. Whatever kind of with the brace inside, I'll decide a point there. So got to measure that out, and that'll be the next step. This is how I go about marking the base for drilling. I'll take my calipers and measure the width, divide it in half, get that number, then I'll use my calipers to score center line there. And then on the top, I'll measure in how far I want to go, and I'll do that and do the same thing to kind of score a line. So I've got a nice, not necessarily a center point yet. I'll use my drill bit to kind of fit right there, but that's where those go. So now what I do to make sure that I'm copying on the top, I will get that measurement. And when I have it marked out on the top, I'll make sure that the both are the same. Alright, got everything marked out, and I've cross-referenced, made sure that I'm at the same measurements. I did the same thing going along the same side of the bridge to measure in towards center as well. So I've got the center marked really well, and what I'm going to use, I've started liking these. I'm just going to use a saddle height screw. These will thread into the top. You can extract them if you ever want to take them out. So I'm just going to drill for that size, bevel the top, and get this back together. There you have it. That's my method for going about this. I do overdo it with the tape, but I just like to be really sure where I have stuff and not have to go back and try and fill and redo anything. So I try and make sure I tape really tight along all the lines around the bridge. Just make sure that I can measure accurately. I double check with my dial calipers, make sure that I'm in the correct amount and that they're spaced apart. If it's a little bit tight, you can open up the holes on the foot of the bridge a little bit to get it to stay in there. It doesn't have to be as tight as I get it. It can have a little bit of wiggle room because it's not going to slide around all over the place. And there are older instruments, you know, this is a Gretsch. If this was like from the 50s, and it had the tailpiece off to the side a little bit, like I mentioned, I would actually move that. I would not be doing the bridge pinning. If you have an older instrument, or like a Gibson arch top, something where the strings are not aligned, pinning the bridge would help, but it would be better practice to actually move the tailpiece. So if you're interested in this type of service or any other repairs that I do, my contact information is at the end of the video, and we'll see you next time.